Move these out. Thanks to you.
Short arms. Look at that.
Hey, get you a contract.
Yeah.
Okay, so today we're going to be talking about anger and working with students that are angry. One of the things I always say in these presentations is that we get here. I'll drop my pill, but I'll get it later. Anyway, when kids get here, we become surrogate parents for many of them. They come from environments that are not stable enough a lot of times, and they get here and it's like, okay, I'm safe. But part of safety also is I'm safe to also express all these things I haven't been expressing. And sometimes that comes out in an angry way. Sometimes it comes out in inappropriate sexual ways. A lot of times the way the kids do their things. But anyway, in essence, we all experience some kind of anger. That's just natural. Many of us come from cultures and subcultures in which we are not reinforced to express that anger. And so it reminds me of an aunt of mine who gets angry, and she clenches her fist and says, "I'm not angry, I'm not angry." I'm like, okay, you seem a little pissed, a little bit. but that's how she expresses it. And so many people are reinforced to just keep that anger down. But with young people, they have a difficult time with that. They don't have the emotions, and the brain is not fully developed until they're 25. And so because of that, sometimes they just explode. Okay, and this place may become some place that they're comfortable exploding. So in your handout, I talk about definitions of anger, and that anger being something that's completely normal. It's usually healthy. It's a basic human emotion, and we all experience it. However, it can be pretty destructive in some ways in reference to our relationships, in reference to our jobs. If you're a person in employment and you're always slamming doors and throwing pins down and so forth with your supervisors and your peers, that's going to be problematic after a while. And so one of the things we try to do here, hopefully at Job Corps, is help these young people learn how to express their anger appropriately. Many of us know, obviously, that when you're in angry situations that you should do things like maybe exercise or take a time out. But it's really kind of difficult oftentimes for people to take time outs when they are, but it's going to be on film. I'm sorry. Okay. Good catch. Okay. But there are different causes of anger. Oftentimes, anger is going to be related to an event. Anger is going to be related to something that happens in our past and so forth. But much of the research suggests that anger is not unilateral in reference to how we see it. In other words, what makes us angry is idiosyncratic because of how we interpret the situation. There are some people who interpret situations and a really small thing comes up, at least to me a very small thing, and they explode. And other people don't do that. I experienced that this past month when we had a lot of snow out here. So I'm coming up from Seattle, and I-5 is not plowed like it should be. But people are flying by, and I'm not trying to do the speed limit, and someone goes past me, and they flip me off. So they give me the finger. Okay, so in that situation, I could speed up, give them the finger during this road rage thing, okay? Or do like I do, and I just, when they go by, I smile and say hi, which probably makes them even more angry because I'm not responding the way they want me to respond. And so the way I interpret that situation, when this angry person goes past me, is that, okay, well, you're just a jerk, as opposed to taking it in a personal way. However, I've been in cars with people sitting right beside me, like, get on this bumper, get on this bumper. And so it's kind of like, where's this going to go? And so how we interpret things is very important. So when we do therapy with people, as a psychologist, I don't really deal with this issue makes you angry, that issue makes you angry. What makes you interpret it in this way? What does that mean for you as an individual? How does it affect you and the people around you? We have things like bodily feelings with that. You'll see a list here about knots in the stomach and clenching hands and seeing red, breathing faster and tension in your shoulders. There are physiological reactions that go along with your anger. But anger does not necessarily have to be something that is very specific in terms of this issue goes on, become angry, then I move on. I'll tell you a story. When I was 11 years old, I was playing down the street, and I was playing with some kids, and one of the little girls who was a friend of mine said something to me, and then I said something back to her. She said, "Well, your mother." Okay, it's something that kids do. Yeah, well, your mother's one. Okay, so that was when I was 11. The next time I spoke to her, I was 23. Because at that moment, she hit me with that thing, and that anger stayed inside of me. I wasn't walking around pissed at her all the time, but I was just like, there's a little room that I'm cutting your hair cut off. And eventually she came to my mother and said, crying, like, you won't speak to me. But the point is that anger can be very, very motivating and incredible. In fact, coaches use it all the time with football. Like, they're the enemy, be pissed at them. And so it can be very motivating. The issue is, the more we use anger to motivate ourselves, the more dysfunctional it is, because oftentimes it's out of place. And so particularly in a place like Job Corps, we have to learn how to become a little bit more of a community and not be angry with people all the time. Okay, good. All right, so as you go through your handout again, some really pretty pictures here. Some people being angry. I talk about consequences of anger in terms of physical consequences: heart disease, diabetes, immune system becomes weakened, hypertension, and insomnia. And those things, even though we think, well, yeah, I was pissed and I could feel my blood pressure going up, it has an effect upon us over the long term. Your heart is not designed to be going up and down, up and down, up and down because you're upset. And so that means that we need to calm ourselves down through breathing, exercising, and so forth. However, there are people who we usually deal with who we call under-controlled people. That is, they're angry, they're outbursts, and so forth. However, it's important to remember that there are other people who are on the opposite end of the spectrum, who are what we call over-controlled, aggressive, angry people. And so they hold it in. They don't say anything to anybody. They're just pissed, and you don't even know it. And then before you know, something happens really pretty small, and they burst and they blow up. Those are the people who end up maybe going and shooting a bunch of kids and shooting up a school or something of the sort, and then all the neighbors are like, "Oh, he was the quiet guy. I don't understand." But you see that all the time. It's like, wait, well, how did he go from the president of the Lions Club to shooting people? And a lot of times those are over-controlled people. And so the notion is, how do we get anger out in a way that is therapeutic and positive without hurting people? Okay. Any questions up to this point? Okay, good. Also, one of the consequences of anger is how it affects your mental health. Consumes high amounts of energy, clouds your thinking, stresses people, and depression. There are differences in terms of how people express anger, but one of the things that we find, one of the findings we're seeing over and over again, is that anger, usually for males, is a sign of depression. And so with men, we're more likely to punch things and be mad and angry and yelling, as opposed to let's talk it out. Maybe in terms of societal kind of things, we express that from guys. So a lot of times when I see that from students, I'm saying, well, what's bothering you? What are you depressed about? And then they're like, oh, okay, let's talk about that. Okay, good. Besides the hurting careers and relationships, and every one of us has been in a relationship in which your feelings were hurt or you hurt someone else's feelings. And sometimes the hardest thing to do in the world is to say, I'm sorry. There's been times that I've done something or said something wrong, I'm in the car, I'm driving along with this person, and I'm like, just let the words come out.
Yeah.
And it's like, and you can't get them out. And at some point, it's a matter of just kind of deciding that, is your anger more important, or is that individual more important? Yeah. Because what I found that when I'm angry at someone, if I walk around the block, and by the time I get halfway in the block, I'm like, what am I even arguing with this person about? It's usually something silly, and nothing life-shattering. It's like, is it spaghetti, or is it going to be pork chops with dinner? This is really a matter of becoming, this gigantic issue. Okay, so I have some myths here that we talk about the young people in terms of what the first myth being, I shouldn't hold in my anger, it's healthy to vent and let it out. And that's true, it is good to let it out, but not in an uncontrolled way. Not that every time something goes along with you, that you're punching walls or you're hitting people. Eventually, you have to learn how to be assertive with people and just say to people, hey, you really made me upset about this, and this is why. And that's, people can receive that a lot more than I'm just angry, and that scares people and pushes people away from you. Okay, and unfortunately with the person who does it, it reinforces them, well, that worked. They left me alone. Well, yeah, they left you alone, but they're not also including you in important things that are going on campus. Okay, people use anger and aggression and intimidation to earn respect and obtain the things they want. That does work with people, but they don't get respect. They get fear. And there's a movie called A Bronx Tale, and the guy asked that question: Do you want to be respected or feared? And that's what he said. I would rather be feared than respected. And so that's, some people come that way, but most of us, because we're in a nation that people work together and we live together, we have to learn how to be together in essence, even if people are giving us a difficult time. Okay. People say they can't control their anger. That's another myth. You can control anger. It's a matter of being motivated to do so. And not to necessarily squelch the anger, but to express it in a more effective way. And that's really kind of important for people to understand and learn that. Interventions that I suggest are exercise, obviously, and deep breathing is very good. You can't be angry when you're relaxed. And so it's kind of, they're two competing emotions. They can't coexist. And so you can't sit here and be totally like at one with the world and so forth, but I'm pissed off at you. It doesn't work. And so we try to get a competing emotion going on with people. Encouraging people to think before they speak. And that's something a lot of us don't do. And it's important just to be able to, let me take a couple of seconds to do that. When I was rearing my sons, I was a single dad, and I asked my son, my oldest son, I need you to make your bed. He said, I'm not gonna make my bed, this is your house. Okay, so I had to stop and think, okay, because I thought, okay, if I said this to my mom, I'd probably be dead. So I can't kill him, okay? But the issue is that he's 15, he's dumb. Okay, let me take a break and go to the kitchen, make myself a sandwich, and come back and say, then I said, you can make your bed or I'm gonna kill you. But then by that time, it's funny. And then he just said, okay, Dad. So, but at the time, I would have just like, make it, and so why go there over a few sheets and a blanket, in essence. Okay, good. Encouraging timeouts, that's a big one. That's what I just did, taking that time out. It's really funny. This comedian, he's a guy, I can't remember who comedian is, but I know him, see his face. And he said, yeah, my father took time out with me. He took time out to spank me, And I thought that was pretty funny. But anyway, but timeouts are just literally the notion of being able to say, I'm gonna just go over here for a minute, relax, and chill, and do something completely different. Okay, using humor, which you talked about, and also encouraging I statements. A lot of times when we're angry, it's always, you did this, you did that, you did that, and as opposed to, hey, I feel that this is unfair. Okay, and so because when you use those you statements all the time, it's accusational, and it's just blatant, and it doesn't go anywhere. And even if someone's ever done that to you, at the end of that, you're like, you're feeling bad about yourself, but you don't feel like talking to that person. There's no understanding. Also, identifying possible solutions is one of the things I talk about in terms of interventions, and especially your thoughts once you get your head clear. Okay, good. One of these that's very important for students is also seeking the support of others. And the reason I say that is because oftentimes you have peers, and even though you're angry, I'm angry with this young man here, and she's my buddy too, and she understands what I'm angry with, and I can bring her in, not to bully this person, but to kind of be like a kind of go-between, like, what he's trying to say is this, but, well, sometimes you do trip, and So it's not just this one way. And then you disperse this a little bit. Okay. And doing also character reality checks. I always, and this is a really important, I always tell students that make sure that you ask people, am I tripping?
Yeah.
Using it, and maybe I'm tripping. Like maybe this side I see it. Because a lot of times it could be, you could be tripping. And you gotta be okay that sometimes you trip. We all do. And so, and it can be over nothing. The other day I got up and it was last week, and I got up. I usually get up around 3:30 in the morning, do a little bit of work, then I fall back asleep a little bit. So I fell back asleep, and I woke up 10 minutes before I was supposed to be going out the door. Okay, and we all had that situation, and I'm like, oh my God, okay, so I'm going in, I gotta take this 2-second bath, this 2-second shower, and everything's rushing around. So by the time I got to work, I'm like a little off kilter a little bit, and I walk in and someone says, the meeting started 3 minutes ago, you're 3 minutes late. So okay, so I can feel myself feeling like, I got here, dude. but the point is that it's kind of like, then I'm tripping about that, but under normal circumstances, I'll just laugh it off. But I'm rushing and I'm running over squirrels on the way here and all kinds of stuff, trying to get there. Okay, questions up to this point? Okay, good. I put information here related to emotional intelligence. It's called EQ. We all know about IQs, but what's more important actually than IQ are these emotional quotients. And that's really very important. What is this person's relationship to the environment and to their own emotions? That's much more important, because there are people who are very, very bright people, but are lousy interacting with people. And not all of us have had professors like that, who were just like, very bright people but couldn't teach. Or very bright people who didn't know how to interact with people. And a lot of times, how do I learn how to deal with people? How do I learn? I call it flow. How do you learn how to flow with people? Because we're all different. And so, and learn how to respect people. Respect people who are not like you. That's very important. I also tell people, and this is important, I did with 2 students this morning, that one student had a problem this weekend. She became suicidal. I got called, I talked to her on the phone, I told her I'd see her on Tuesday. And what was the suicidal feeling she was feeling was anger based upon what happens with her mother when she was a young person. And so I said, okay, I'm sorry those things happen. Those things happen to a lot of things to all of us, but you're not 7 anymore. You're 20.
Yeah.
And you're here at Job Corps. Look around you. And she said, yeah, I'm in Job Corps. Exactly. So that little girl inside you who's driving the car sometimes, so you can't let her drive the car. She has to sit over here, and that anger comes from mom back in these days. Yeah. This is where we are now. Now there's a theoretical orientation called DBT that talks about that. I just really put it in those kind of terms. Stay in the present. Stay in the present right now, and you will feel less angry about those things. That doesn't mean those things didn't happen to you and they're not important, but history is history. And so 25 years from now, the same history is still the same history, but you're affecting your present and the future by being back there. And so part of the importance of Job Corps is that this place is designed for the future. That's why they're here. Well, some of them think that they're here to get girlfriends, but many of them are really here to work towards your future and towards your employment. Okay. Exploring what's really behind the anger. That's a lot of times what we want to do with students. What is it that truly makes you angry? Why do you think you're angry? And then if necessary, when you're working with a student, feel free to make a mental health referral. The forms have gone out a number of different times. I'll do them again if you need me to do them. But to make the referral to this person. Now sometimes young people, students act up in classes, for example, because they're just being clowns, or because they're angry at another student, or whatever. And I will talk to them, but it's kind of like there's nothing I can do, and they're just being a clown. It's kind of like, just be good in class. And it's not like they're gonna come in and say, they're like, oh, I get it now. I'll be a smart student. They get a lot of attention for being angry or whatever. Okay, so different kind of students have a difficult time compromising, expressing anger, overgeneralizing. There's a very important theorist in psychology. Her name was Karen Horney. Karen Horney talked about the tyranny of the shoulds. And the notion was that the shoulds in our lives have become tyrannical. I should do this, I should be this way, and so forth. And they're like tyrants over our lives. And they make us angry because you're saying I should do that, but that's not what I want to do. And so my thing as a mental health counselor is that do what you want to do as long as you're not hurting yourself or hurting other people, it should be okay to use the should again. So, but there's nothing wrong with that. But a lot of times people, they don't get the things they want in their lives because they're so doing things that they were told they were supposed to do when they were so young people. And at some point, there's nothing wrong with that. I have a thing here about nobody can eat 50 eggs. Anybody know what that's from? Anybody seen that? Nobody can eat 50 eggs? Okay. You gotta see a movie, and the movie's called Cool Hand Luke. And Cool Hand Luke is with Paul Newman, terribly handsome guy.
So, can we get a box here on campus?
Sure.
Yeah.
There's a part of the movie that he's a prisoner, and they're bored, and they bet that no one can eat 50 eggs.
Hard-boiled.
Hard-boiled eggs, exactly. And so you gotta see the movie to get it. But the guy's trying to motivate him, and he's trying to eat these 50 eggs because they bets all over the place. But George Kennedy's in the movie, and he's telling him, eat them, chew them, and he's getting him motivated to eat these 50 eggs, which he does. And then he's able to accomplish that, and then he sits there with his big fat belly, it's overstuffed, saying, I ate all the eggs. So anyway, see Cool Hand Luke, it's a good film. Okay, so I have for you also the Navaco anger scale. I try to put something like this in each one of these presentations so you can just take a look at it. And look at the things that you're looking at. You look at an appliance, you just unplug it and discover it doesn't work. Or being overcharged by the repairman. Or being singled out for corrections others don't notice. These things are relatively minor in a lot of ways, but they're things that get us really angry. When we feel like we're being taken advantage of, or people are not respecting us. And oftentimes, it's important just to make sure that you just decide that, is it really that important? And that's kind of what the thought stoppage is. Is it really that important, this issue? I can remember driving down the highway again, and I'm in a car with my sister at that time, and this guy's behind us. We're going 65 miles an hour in a 60-mile road, and this guy's behind us on the bumper, flashing his lights. We've all experienced that. He's flashing his light, he's moving back and forth, and so forth. And my sister's like, you gotta get out of the way, you gotta get out of the way. And I'm like, I'm not gonna risk our lives because he's in a hurry, period. Let him be mad. And so, he flashes the light and goes around eventually. But the issue is that he goes around us, and then he flies to the next car and does the same thing. And so, you've all had that experience. It's like, this is just an angry person, or a person who wants to be in control of things too much. And so we deal with that and recognize that there are jerks in the world. They're gonna be there, no question about it.
It's also possible he was in a hurry to get to the hospital to see a loved one.
It's possible, but irrespective, I should have been losing my life because he's in that hurry. Yeah. So anyway, the scales here. I also have a thing back here for you taking notes. I won't go back here for people. And now I will shut up and ask you if you have any questions at all. None?
I record all of Dr. D's presentations for people who can't make it, so yes, we are. Yes. I can turn it off.
I just wanted to say that you
Maybe showing some elevations in their moods based upon biology. And because it's a biological condition, they need to treat it biologically, and that's with medication. But bipolars are classically known for being non-compliant with the medication. Another biological component could be blows to the head. So when people have history of frontal lobe injuries, affecting emotions kind of here, and so those people can also have problems with anger, even if they get hit back here. There's a term, a French term that's called contre-coup, and what that means is that your brain is in this liquid, and so if I'm in a bar fight and somebody hits me here, and then as people say, I got hit here and it just turned white and I saw stars and so forth. I might have an injury here, but I probably have an injury directly opposite here.
Right.
Head bounced, and back here is sight. So that's why I can see the stars and I see the white. And so so that could be another reason that people, we all call it organic reasons. Another issue could be just based upon drugs. The kids use drugs and sometimes they act out angrily because of that. And so there are a lot of different reasons, and if the person is organically affected, me talking therapy all the time doesn't mean anything. So I think I'm talking to them, they're bipolar, I'm like, you need to calm yourself, but it's biological. I can't let that not happen. Okay. Anything else? Phoebe, thank you all for attending. I got 2 shows daily.